Hello, my YouTube family. Hope you guys are doing well. The summer of 2025 is coming to a close. You know, will be I guess if I'm thinking about it, this will be the last summer of the first quarter, hopefully, if I make it to 100, of my life, right? So that's an interesting thing to think about. 25 so far has been a really, really good year. You know, as you saw, I won the 120 class, strongman class at the Arnold. And then today I'm also going to talk about my world record strict curl that I was able to accomplish, and I'm going to talk about the personal best total that I put up in powerlifting. And that was all this past summer, June and July. And then I also want to talk a little bit maybe about my thoughts and just take you through this deload work with me. Right now I'm experiencing a little bit of left collarbone discomfort. I don't think it's much, I don't think we can really do anything as far as exercise-wise to prevent sometimes this discomfort people will get up into their collarbone. But what we can do is just warm up the shoulder, get some blood flow going. Unfortunately, I don't have any lighter bands with me, so I'm going to just use this purple band, and just really all I'm doing is just using this one loop of the band instead of people tend to double up on everything. You can make a band lighter if you just grab the one singular loop. All right, so I've already warmed up to about 315 here. We'll throw on 365. That will be all I'm doing today on my deload. Go into the first set, and then I'm going to talk about preparation for my strict curl competition. 6 reps, here we go. This was heavier. I would definitely probably throw another mat, make the bench up a little higher. This bench, if you've seen some of my videos from last summer, I took the foam pad off because it was, it got wet being outside and everything. Put this wood board on, and I covered it with some wood glue, but that ended up sticking to the cover I have for the bench, but that's all right. I mean, it still works, that's all that matters. Anyways, needless to say, this wood is not the most comfortable thing in the world. Again, if I was actually using some heavy weight, for me, I would probably throw a yoga mat over the bench so I can get my shoulders in better and a little softer for myself to push myself into. All right, one set done, one more to go. Let's talk about my strict curl competition. All right, we're gonna do my second set here and then move on in a second. But let's talk a little bit about the preparation for my strict curl competition. Now, post Arnold, we went back to my fundamental lifts, being the squat, bench, deadlift, chin-ups, strict curls because I compete in curling competitions, dips, overhead press, very basic fundamental exercises that everyone has access to if you're into strength sports and getting stronger. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If you're getting stronger in these kind of movements, these base movements, everything else will get stronger. So anyways, we get back to that. And I was feeling really good. And based on the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, I started thinking, okay, I want to compete in a powerlifting competition maybe at the end of the summer. And as I was, doing the lifts and implementing back the strict curl as well, someone reached out to me. His name's John Gaglione. You guys might know him as Larry Wheel's powerlifting coach. When Larry was breaking all those world records in powerlifting, Gaglione was the one coaching him. So he reached out to me, asked if I was interested in doing a podcast. You can check that out. Go to, I think it's Gaglione Strength on Spotify, and then type in my name, either Tank Strength or Brendan Todd, and you can listen to what we talk about there. It's pretty good stuff. But anyways, he asked if I was going to be interested in doing a strict curl competition at the, I believe it was the end of May. Yes, the end of May, May 31st, I believe. And I said, yeah, absolutely, of course. Last year, 2024, I did a strict curl competition. I had a blast. It was a lot of fun, and I ended up curling 220 pounds. So my goal going into this competition was just to beat that. I think 225 was a reasonable goal. 230 would be awesome, but I knew 225 would be a reasonable goal. Now with the strict curl, I don't train it as a, I obviously put a lot of time, effort, and focus into it, especially the closer we get. But it's not like I'm training my strict curl like we would train an event for strongman, or we would train the squat, bench, and deadlift preparing for a powerlifting meet, where we start to drop the fatigue of all these other exercises and just focus on the exercises that we need to compete in. While I was prepping for that strict curl competition, because my SBD was feeling so good, I also thought, hey, let's do a powerlifting competition mid-summer. So, of course, closer we got to the strict curl, we started focusing up here a little bit more on just curling. But just keep in mind that it wasn't a true peak like we would for another competition. All right, let's hit my second set here. One thing I want to pay attention to on this set is to make sure I'm not hitting this. As I fatigue, I start to let the chest collapse, which is fine, but for deload, not necessary. Feeling good. Even just doing a few band pull-aparts really helped warm up my shoulder here, which is nice. Very nice. We're gonna move to some bottom-up drives. That's where we're just focusing on the bottom portion of the bench press. So we're gonna strip this guy, load up 300 pounds. All right. So, strict curl competition. So the way we kind of prep for this, we had, I was curling twice a week. In the beginning, I had one day of a quote-unquote cheat curl. I didn't use too much momentum. I would still consider a pretty strict standing curl, but I did not have, a wall behind me. It was not to a strict curl competition. Or standards, of course. So I did have some sway, did have some body English, but I try to keep it to only what I thought was appropriate. If I was just kind of basically doing a curl clean, that would not have been useful for a strict curl competition at all. But what we were doing is kind of almost overloading the movement by allowing some hip usage and some body English to get heavier weights up. That was on one day. Another day, I had high sets and low repetition curls, and we kept that out throughout the training prep. then about 4 weeks out, we switched the cheat curl into a strict curl in order to really prep for our competition. Now, the heaviest curl I got during the cheat curl, I believe, was 230. I will be double checking that, obviously, when I edit the video. But I believe I got up to 230 with a pretty clean, solid curl, so I was very, very happy with that. And as far as the strict curl competition, I don't believe I went much over about 215, maybe about 218, which is still a heavy curl for me, but it was similar to weights that I was hitting during last year, 2024 prep. But they felt better. And that's when I knew going into the competition that I was going to PR my curl, whether it was by 2 pounds or 5 pounds. I knew I was going to hit that PR, which I was very, very happy about. All right, let's move on to the bottom up drives. So we're only doing like the bottom. I still like to say 3/4. There's a transition in the bench press where it becomes kind of shoulders and triceps locked out, and the chest is no longer the primary mover. At least that's how I feel. So we're just focusing on the portion that's mostly chest. Again, 6 reps. That felt incredibly light. It's crazy how light that feels. All right. So day of the meet, it was about an hour and a half, almost 2-hour drive down to the competition. And that same day, I was planning on PRing my squat again because I decided to do a powerlifting competition the middle of the summer. So we only had, by the time the strict curl competition finished and the powerlifting meet was, I believe we had maybe 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. So training was constant. We were doing heavy squats, heavy bench, heavy deadlift, and really heavy strict curls. And thankfully, I felt really good. My recovery was perfect. So meet day, we went and I was feeling really good. And I went with my friend Joe, who's now a pro strongman. He was kind of handling me. He was handling me for the day, and he was just driving me around, just being a good training partner. Show up there, opener moves easy. Second attempt moved very easy. The third attempt, I was debating if I was going to go for the 226 on that third attempt, or if I was going to, I believe it was 220 or 221, and just, chip my PR. And I believe this would have also put me at something the guy was explaining. I would have been invited to I would be invited to a pro show. Basically, if I hit above, I believe it was 220 or whatever my third attempt was, I would secure the spot he was talking about. So he's like, save it for the fourth attempt when you're going for the world record. At that time, it was a world record. Now this is drug tested curling in the 120 kilo class, or maybe it was 125. Sorry about the numbers. And got the third, went up pretty good. Not as fast as I would have liked, but it didn't matter. They're like, okay, listen, you're gonna take your fourth attempt, take as long as you want. I think I only took about maybe 3.5 to about 5 minutes. But I was like, let's go, let's send it. I mean, when you're ready, I don't always need about 10 minutes between heavy attempts, especially with something like a curl. I just need just as long as, maybe 5 minutes, because this way I'm still amped up and excited about my last attempt to go into this final attempt. Sometimes I feel like lifters, they'll take like 10 to 15 minutes between attempts and when they're training, and they just kind of cool down during that period instead of actually rest. And I was amped, ready to go, and I was like, let's go, throw it on. 225.9 pounds. We can round it up, called 226, curl world record. Super happy about it. Very, I mean, it was just awesome. It felt that curl, along with the Arnold and along with the powerlifting competition later, it was kind of cementing into me who I knew I already was, as far as my ability to compete, my ability to improve, and what I was doing on this earth, during this time of my life. Before this year, back when I was just powerlifting, about 2023, it was just constant, like, getting either screwed over, or it was constantly getting kind of, just not really hitting what I wanted to do. So this year has been really nice about, really feeling who I am in these competitions and being able to deliver what I know I'm capable of. And that's kind of what that 226 represented. So I know it's just a curl, but it's important to me, and that's kind of how you guys, I hope everyone watching this video treats everything in their life, whether it be a hobby or something. If it's significant to you, then it's significant. All right, let's get this second set of bottom-up drives. Again, 6 repetitions. Now, after that meet, we went to a diner, got some food. I was not able to eat a ton. Not able to eat a lot during competitions or the day of. Even a couple days beforehand, I start having a hard time with my food, which is obviously something I need to work on. But I think I had like a glass of milk, that's pretty much it. And then we drove an hour and a half, go train at my friend's gym in Delaware, where I was gearing up to hit, I believe it was a 770 squat, all-time PR squat by 10 pounds. And during this powerlifting prep, I was having a difficult time with depth on the squat. Not every single repetition or single I did was to depth. Some was kind of pretty high, but in the back of my head, I knew I was still pretty confident that I would be fine during the competition, just because in times past I wasn't always hitting depth during prep. Sometimes I would only start to hit depth a couple weeks out as my hips and everything opened up, and my body felt more confident under the heavier weights. So we finished the competition. When we drove hour and a half to go compete, loaded up 770 on the bar, and smoked that as well. So May 31st, 2025 was a really, really good day. All right, so the deload calls for chin-ups, which are very easy, and some cable chest flies. Obviously, I do not have a cable here. So what I'm gonna do instead is just some wide stance push-ups. Maybe feet elevated, maybe not. So let's talk now about our powerlifting prep and going in to accomplish a 2,100 pound total. The goals going into this powerlifting prep, I wanted to take a step back about thinking about competing with powerlifters or anything like that. It was purely, let's see if we can get a PR, and let's see if I can total 2,000 pounds. I almost totaled 2,000 pounds when I was 23 years old. 24 years old. No, 23 years old. I almost totaled 2,000 pounds when I was 23. I'm now 25. It's been about a year and a half since my last powerlifting meet. And I had mixed feelings about powerlifting. I still love the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, but I did not like competing in powerlifting. It's not as entertaining and fun as strongman. With that being said, though, I still wanted to feel like, hey, listen, a 2,000 pound total for an elite powerlifter, that's solid. I can leave my name, and that's going to be a good legacy right there. So we started prep, and the squats were going phenomenal. My deadlift, that was insane. The deadlift, I was picking weight up that I thought was going to be heavy. I mean, it felt like a warm-up. I don't think I pulled, it wasn't until I pulled 800 pounds where I was like, oh, that's kind of heavy during the entire prep. I pulled 770 and it felt like nothing, which was, again, that would have been a stiff bar PR. And then even when I pulled 800, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I have another 10, 15 pounds in it. So that prep overall, and I'll be showing you some highlights there, it moved phenomenal. And then my bench was, I wanted to do something a little different than what I've done in the past. Let me hit this set of chin-ups here. In the past with my bench, it's always felt, I've been strong, of course, but it didn't feel repeatable. I didn't feel like my lifts, I couldn't gauge RPE really well. It felt, frankly, I didn't realize this until later, but it felt unstable. When I was pressing, I'd press, and I've always flared my elbows, and I still do, but I would let the bar travel too far back over more of my face, my neck, versus keeping it over the shoulder. So I did two things. One big thing for this past prep, I implemented the cue of pressing over your nipples. And if you don't have a great arch, think of the cue as pressing over your collarbone or over your shoulder. In the past, I would think about pressing over my face. That caused the bar to go back too far. I wouldn't be able to grind it out because the bar would misgroove. But now if I focus on pressing over my nipples, the bar is still, the weight of the bar is still over the shoulder. I'm still getting that J pattern if we look from the side. I'm still flaring my elbows as I hit mid-range to lockout, but I'm just not letting the bar go back too far. The other big thing that I implemented was not soft touch, but really focusing on as big of an arch as I can get and holding that arch nice and tense. In the past, I would let the bar sink into my chest and I would kind of throw or explode it up, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I wanted to try something different. And because of that, during training, I hit a few pretty big PRs. I hit a 515 for 2, which was huge for me, and I hit a 531 pound bench press, which is an all-time PR by about 2 pounds. So I was very excited about that, especially during, this was not a very long time of me just solely focusing on a lot of overhead strength and tricep strength with a close grip press, prepping for the Arnold versus a standard strict powerlifting bench press. Okay, let's hit some push-ups here. 15, kind of wide, really focus on the chest. .25 felt more appropriate than just a mere 15. But overall, that powerlifting prep was very, very fun. Surrounded myself with a good training partner, Joe, and this other athlete I train, good friend too, Steven. And we were able to surround ourselves and really work towards our own separate goals. Steven and Joe compete primarily in strongman. I was prepping for a powerlifting competition. Didn't matter, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get stronger and you're lifting weights. So if you want to find a good partner, a good training partner, the key is find someone who is actually interested in your success and not someone that you're necessarily competing with. If you're competing with someone, it's not the worst thing in the world. But again, that person should be interested in your success. You're not trying to win in the training room. You're trying to win on the platform. So you end up seeing a lot of these kids, they get toxic training partners, and instead of pushing them to do better and actually train, they push to compete and eventually, get themselves hurt. There's a difference between training and competing. You're always pushing yourself to do better. That's a minimum. People talk about it like, oh my God, like this is a crazy concept that you need to have someone like these West Side guys. They're getting hurt and they're tearing things because they're competing against each other. No, that if you get hurt, you're out of the equation. So be smart, work hard, train hard. Don't be a pussy. But you have to know this is the difference between training and competing. And sometimes you don't realize that until you're at an elite level. Okay. Let's go one more. Either one more set of push-ups or two more. I'll have to check my sheet. One more set of jumps though. All right, let's get one more set of chin-ups, and we'll probably do some tricep work, some body weight tricep work. I'll show you guys. Now, back to the powerlifting competition. Training honestly went really, really well. Training was a lot of fun, injury-free. Now, during a prep, you're never going to always be 100% injury-free. It's not every lift is going to feel amazing, or sometimes everything will go great during prep, and then on the meet, it doesn't go good. That's just the life of a competitor. That's the life of an athlete. It is what it is. But again, when you compete for a very long time, you lift for a very long time, you start to learn things about yourself, and just based on how the competition was going, how it was feeling, and comparing it to my other successful competitions, I knew this meet was going to be very successful. I knew it was going to be a blast. I ended up hitting 788 in training on squats to depth. Not a lot of hype around me. The guy who was spotting me, I didn't even tell him to spot me. I just told him to stay there after I'm done with a rep. If you could help me guide me in. I was like, if I miss it, I'm going to dump the bar. Don't even worry about picking me up. So with that being said, I was in a position where I was very confident with all my numbers. I hit that 531. I hit a 515 for a double. My pecs were, my pec fatigue I could not get rid of until like maybe a few days before the competition. But again, I wasn't too concerned with it. It was about 2-3 weeks where I just like, my pecs were always fatigued. Again, not super concerned with it. Hit the 771 deadlift, then I hit the 800-pound deadlift. I knew that was gonna be my last heavy deadlift of prep, and all my deads moved very, very well. New technique and a focus on the technique like I haven't had before, where I was lifting the most efficient I've ever lifted, and it had a huge payoff. So day of competition, the competition was in New Jersey. I wanted to compete in Powerlifting America. All right, let me hit this last set here. I want to compete in Powerlifting America. My goal here is, you know, there's a lot of problems with drug-tested powerlifting. The different federations, there's USAPL, there's Powerlifting America, there's local federations. But that's where all the big guys are. That's where the head honchos are right now. So at the end of the day, I want to compete in the federation that has the head honchos. Show up there the day beforehand. It was not too far away from where my girlfriend's parents lived, so we were able to stay with my girlfriend's parents. And I was actually able to do my last squat session at the gym I was going to compete at, because I was up there a few weeks prior. And lovely gym, lovely owner, War Room in New Jersey. Show up there, day of competition. I always have a hard time eating. I mean, it is what it is. I always have a hard time consuming food on the day of my prep. So wasn't too worried about the weight class. I knew I was going to be fine there. Weighed in, was sipping Gatorade, sipping water, trying to get as much electrolytes as possible in to avoid what happened at Strongman Nationals the year before, where I got really dizzy lifting weights. Luckily, was not an issue. Started warming up for squats, and things were moving beautifully. It was good meat. It was a quick meat because it was small meat, but that's kind of how I like to lift. I like things to go boom, 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 one after another. I don't like sitting around. It's boring. It's really boring. And I start to get tired just like because of how boring it is if things aren't moving fast. So I don't mind these small meets, and I don't mind quick meets. Squats opened up with, you're gonna have to forgive me the numbers here, but opener moved really fast. My second attempt moved like a joke. That moved really fast. And I was squatting just deep enough. That's the trick. You don't want to squat too deep if you don't have to squat too deep. So I was squatting just deep enough to make sure it counted. If you take a look here, look at my second attempt of the 755, which was all 3 white lights, versus my third attempt of 788, and I got two reds on depth. And it's not from the 2 sides, it was one from the head judge, and one from the side judge. So even after that, I was like, listen, if you look at these 2 pictures, they're the same depth. What's going on here? I went to the judges, and one of the guys goes, well, you can't really tell from the head judge perspective on depth. You really have to take the video from side. I said, that's fine, but the head judge is the one that gave me the depth call. And the guy's like, oh, you know, it's hard to tell. I could have been wrong. And this was a local meet. It wasn't a huge thing. If I was a judge, I would never be like, I could have been wrong to someone in the middle of a competition. And, you know, I was nice about it and whatever. But it was a bit frustrating because I knew I hit depth there. It's clear as day on video that I hit depth. The head judge is the one who if he gave me a white light, I would have passed I would have gotten, the lift would have passed, and I would have gotten my third squat. It's frustrating, a little ridiculous, but it is what it is. They also didn't know how to bring the racks in during the competition as well. Someone wasn't willing to give me a spot because I was lifting too heavy. I didn't really let this frustrate or flabbergast me too much, just purely based on, hey, listen, I'm coming to this gym. It's a state it's a state championship, I know, but it's still relatively a local competition. You know, I'm squatting like high elite powerlifting numbers. You know, this is a local competition. Sometimes these kids who are spotting and loading, they don't always know everything about powerlifting. A lot of them are new. They're trying to get fresh into the community. So although I was frustrated at that third squat attempt, I didn't let it kind of dissuade me, because, you know, again, I'm just gonna have to give them, you know, give people grace. A lot of times they're not trying to be malicious. People make mistakes, not a big deal. Now, if this happened at a national meet, I would be very upset, and I would be, you know, probably fighting for trying to get things overturned and fighting for the right thing to do. But again, it was a local meet, not a big diff, not a big deal. We move on to our bench, and bench moved great. You know, it moved really well. The second attempt, the way the second attempt moved, I wanted to make sure I went 3 for 3 on bench press. So I went a little lighter on the third attempt. That moved actually really, really well. I felt locked in. Everything was moving smoothly on the third attempt for bench. Probably could have gone heavier, but that's all right. I want to take it. Again, not a big issue. Now, again, I explained this a little bit with a squat, but let me just tell you kind of what was going on there. It was a lot of people's first meets. It was the guy who was in charge of New Jersey State's Powerlifting America. It was his last meet he was doing. One person wasn't willing to give me a lift off, or I shouldn't even say that, he wasn't willing to spot me on the bench press. So the guy who was lifting off had to lift off and then run to the side and spot me. The call outs for people, you know, there was miscalculations in weights. People had to change the weights around. The call outs were kind of funky. So there was a lot of things that, you know, if this happened at a national meet or a world meet, it would frankly just kind of be not okay. The machine wasn't running super smoothly, but this is a local meet, 1, and 2, it tests me as an athlete to be able to adapt and move on the fly, and I will have to give credit to Strongman for allowing me to do that. You know, not to talk ill of other powerlifters, but I do feel like sometimes these powerlifters are kind of like little princesses. They need everything to be perfect. This needs to be perfect. This needs to be perfect. Everything needs to run super smoothly. This can't. Oh, what the heck is going on here? Listen, if you compete in Strongman, we literally had event changes during the competition. This was a world amateur competition. We had changes to events. They we're not doing that event anymore. Not replacing with something similar, something completely different. And once you learn how to compete in that environment, a true sports kind of competitive environment, someone not knowing how to bring the racks in, you have to wait 30 seconds so they can bring it in before you go squat. That's not going to throw you off. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. Is that, listen, if you're competing and you're nitpicking every little teeny thing at a local competition, which I've seen plenty of powerlifters do.
We can make an impact, grab it, then take it. slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams into modestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead I say something not illogical, something that is topical. Rub it on and watch it go, make yourself unstoppable. Dreams are irresponsible, but they're always possible. If you just believe, you could be so remarkable.
Thoughts in my head, a collage and they spread. I'll be great one day, going off of my meds. No, I'm not giving up, no, I'm not giving in. I will make it to the top, taking off in the wind. I gotta make it, I'm saving every day to taste it. I'm patient, but my mind, it can hardly take it. I'm chasing a dream that I've had for several ages. A vacant, modern kingdom for the taking.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
All right, and that's my 2104 total at 25 years old. Really happy with it. I think the biggest contributing factor that helped me put together that performance was most is going to be my mentality going into that. It was taking a step back, relaxing, training, but taking what's there on those training days, not putting so much emotional attachment behind certain numbers, showing up, doing what was needed to be done, and being a real competitor, being a real, that championship mindset. That was a huge factor. The other big factor I would say was all the other training that I've been doing. As you guys saw, I won the Arnold strict curl world record, and then the strongman training, the street lifting competition that I did last year as well, the strict curl competition, even that, all of that helped build my ability as a strength athlete, laid a large foundation, specializing in different types of things, learning different things about different strength sports, so that I have this nice big foundation to peak off of for the powerlifting meet. And I'll continue to do so. I'll continue to compete in multiple strength sports because I find that to be the most enjoyable. I realize also about this whole process that I'm not a power lifter. I'm not a strongman. I'm not a strict curler. I'm not a street lifter. I'm just a lifter. I am enthralled with physical culture. I like getting big and strong, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. So as a lifter, these meets are important. Strongman comps are important. Those things are important to me. But what's most important to me is enjoying training and progressing in my training. Hands down, that's the most important thing. I hope it's the same with you. If you guys are interested in becoming the best version of yourself, if you're interested in learning new things about yourself, getting stronger, getting bigger, and achieving your goals, please go visit tankstrengthcoaching.com and shoot me over an email at tankstrengthcoaching@gmail.com, so we can work together. We can at least chat, but hopefully we can work together to get you where you need to be.